Jeffrey Lord, author of Swamp Wars, Fox News analyst. He is a contributor to the American Spectator, former member of the Reagan administration, and he joins us this morning. Good morning, Jeffrey. How are you?
I am just fine there, Gary.
Well, it's great to have you in today. And, hey, we turn green today. I mean, it's an exciting time here in our area. I guess are you guys green yet, or are you still in another place right now?
I think this is our day. Which means here in the near future, haircut city.
Yeah. So now you are a guy. If anyone has watched you on TV, you have been blessed with a good head of hair. I mean, you have this white wavy hair, and you know me. I was not blessed with that. My father was. I didn't get those genes somehow passed along. So I've always had some envy there. Although, and we're not supposed to envy, but I've had some envy for your hair. So I'm assuming that you are. I mean, are ponytails involved yet for you? Have you gotten to that point?
I can tell you, I have finally, at my age, achieved my youthful dream of looking like the fifth Beatle.
Oh, so is that the first thing you're going to do? Is get out there and get a haircut?
Well, it'll be one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
okay.
Because I imagine all kinds of people will be doing this, and the place where I go generally is busy on weekends, so I'll probably wait until sometime next week.
Okay. All right. What's your thought during this whole time? I mean, and I've been asking a lot of our contributors this morning, what's your thought during this whole COVID-19 time? You've had a chance to think about it, like all of us, and Jeffrey lives up in the Camp Hill area.
In truth, my first thought was, get me out of here.
Yeah, exactly. One of the fascinating things, and you and I normally talk about national stuff, but I wanted to ask you about this thing that's taking place with the governor and the state assembly at the moment, which has been kind of interesting, where the state assembly had those concurrent resolutions this week, which was provided by, I think, Title 35, which ironically is the same piece of legislation that the governor has used as a basis for governing during by resolution, and yet that's provided in the same document that he's used to kind of put out these edicts during this time. It's fascinating to watch this because I always love to see a good constitutional question. I'm wondering what your thoughts are about it.
Yeah, I think it is very interesting indeed. And, earlier in my life, I worked as executive assistant to Pennsylvania's senior U.S. Senator John Hines.
Okay.
And in his life, before he was elected to Congress, John was a delegate to the Pennsylvania Constitutional Convention, or what have you, which was, as I recall, somewhere like around 1966 or somewhere in there. And, this is just raising all kinds of interesting questions. And I absolutely have no idea how this is going to shake itself out. It has been fascinating to watch. I mean, I personally think the governor has overreached. I think he's not alone in that with governors around the country. And I haven't checked the news this morning, but a governor who, at least when I went to bed last night, had not overreached was the governor of Washington, where you've got these people literally taking over parts of downtown Seattle,
right,
and walling it off, as it were, and declaring it's no longer part of. I mean, it's as if they're like the Confederates, right? They're no longer part of the United States.
Right.
So I think there are all these constitutional questions. I don't know whether this will eventually work its way to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and beyond. I honestly don't know. But they are going to have to resolve this, and fairly soon.
Well, it seems like if you're going to take the law and say, okay, it's based on this that I am ruling, then you have to take the law in totem. You can't cherry pick parts that you like and leave the other parts you don't, and say, oh, by the way, when it comes time for the legislature to get involved after 90 days, I think I'll just kind of overlook that one and I'll keep on going. I mean, that's the stuff of which tyranny is ultimately made, although people would say, wow, you're overstating that. And I don't think so. I think that's the stuff where tyranny is made when you don't abide by the laws that you have created on behalf of the people, right?
Well, that's absolutely right. And, I mean, that's why I find this so fascinating. I mean, this has gone from being a grade A crisis to being a constitutional tutorial, if you will. It's sort of abstruse here. And I frankly have no idea how this is going to end up.
One of the things that I think we're having a tough time with on the national stage right now, and I would say maybe even on the local stage to some point, but I think on the national stage more than not, is separating the silliness from the seriousness. You know, we have people who are serious, and, you know, the George Floyd death, obviously a terrible thing and a serious thing, and something that should unite us all and recoil us all in what happened. And there are issues that people have, and I'm, you know, like I said this week, all week, I'm listening to what those issues are so that we can make sure all of our brothers and sisters in our society all are getting the same kind of justice. On the other side, you have silliness, in my opinion, in a lot of the statue stuff that's going on and some of the other really crazy stuff that's happening. In your lifetime, and working in politics and even non-politics, what have you used as a dividing stick to separate silliness from seriousness? Because we seem to have an awful lot more of it right now in stock than we did even before, although I suspect if we went back, there was probably a lot of it in our history.
Well, a lot of the seriousness, alas, does not lend itself to public view. I mean, it's very tedious and all of this. I mean, in my lifetime, just to pull an example out of the hat, when I worked for Congressman Bud Schuster, and he was from Pennsylvania and from the Altoona area, right. He was on the House Budget Committee. So President Reagan gets elected, and his very first thing was a whole package of budget cuts and tax cuts, et cetera, et cetera. Good Lord, I can remember sitting for endless hours in these rooms on Capitol Hill in Washington where the staff is going through this stuff literally line by line by line, debating what does it mean, what is the effect, what is the impact on it, et cetera. Well, this is stuff that the public never saw, right? I mean, it was all the hard work, if you will, of doing this. What the public saw was President Reagan making a speech on television or debates on the House floor, that kind of thing. But the real, as my father always liked to say, the real nitty-gritty had to be done, and it was done generally out of camera range. I don't think that really has changed any. I mean, I can imagine what's going on in Washington right this minute, and there are people you've never heard of who are closeted in rooms, you know, representing Nancy Pelosi and the Treasury Secretary and the White House and all of this sort of stuff in all kinds of negotiations on things. And meanwhile, what we're hearing is, you know, the president walks to Lafayette Park, or Nancy Pelosi and company kneel in a room on the Capitol and all. I mean, that's what we're hearing.
Yeah, and that's the shame of it, that maybe they're, you know, and we're selling short the people who are doing some good work, who are doing the serious, mature, adults in the room kind of work that is needed as well. Jeffrey, always good having you aboard, my friend. Thank you so much. Get that haircut today, and we'll look forward to talking to you hopefully next week, okay?
All right. Thanks a lot, Gary. Bye-bye.
Thanks, buddy. Take care. Jeffrey Lord with us here on WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton.